Okay, hi, my name is Tracy Atkins, and I currently teach second grade at Horizon Elementary School in Madison, Alabama. I've been teaching for 19 years. I've taught pre-K, kindergarten, ESL, Title I, third grade, and second grade. My love is definitely early childhood, and second grade is absolutely one of my most favorite grades to teach. So I feel very at home where I'm at, and I feel very blessed to be able to be in a grade that I absolutely love to teach. Today I'm going to talk about the study of countries around the world. And I think it's really important in the elementary, early childhood world to make those abstract ideas concrete. I feel that most early childhood and elementary teachers do this pretty naturally. We are always trying to fill our lessons with activities that will help our students understand the concept we are teaching, and we are always hoping to keep them more engaged. I know there are times in teaching where we must teach formulas and stick to a certain way of teaching, but in the world of social studies, you can truly use the fun and engaging way of teaching with using all different types of learning styles. This is the way that I was taught to teach when I first began, and it's the way that I really wish I could always teach. Today I'm going to explore a study that I've done in my second grade classroom, and it's a study of China. In the past, my school implemented an international night where every single classroom within our school was transformed into a country for a very special night. This was one of the most fun nights of the year. It was a workout, but it was so much fun, and the excitement of the students made it worth every bit of work that we put into it. Now, I will tell you up front that this is something that I focused on for about 9 weeks. It is something that I plan on revisiting this year in my classroom. And there's some things that I did just before going into this webinar in the last week or so. And my students, just at the mention of China, are very, very excited about the things that we'll be learning. In the beginning of my study of China with my class, I had to remind myself that most kids have not been to China. China is not a place that everyone has been to. It's not a place that you can easily get to. It's a place that you have to make concrete in order for your students to remember. The main reason I wanted to study China for myself was due to the Red Panda, the Great Wall of China, and Confucius. So I had already gone into this knowing some of the things that I wanted to teach. I also became a learner while studying China. There were many things that I learned that I did not know. So I began with my planning phase. And when I did this, I had to ask myself, okay, what standards do you need to cover? How much time do you have to thoroughly teach the unit? And will you be teaching weekly? Will you teach daily? Will you teach twice a week? How are you going to implement the plan? I also had to really think about how much time I could allow myself because the sad, unfortunate part of teaching social studies is that sometimes we put it on the back burner and we feel like we have to let other things go. And I knew that with this, I wanted to be completely committed and that I had to make time for it in the plans that I had planned out, that I had to make time for that really on a daily basis within my classroom. So I began with introducing my country. And we did this with lots of excitement. I pretended that we were all going on a trip and that we were going to be visiting a place that probably none of us had ever been to before. I began with going to the library on my own and getting books that I thought would interest the kids. I used my public library, my school library. I also had an account on Epic where I was able to do a digital library that my kids would be able to access within the classroom and that I would be able to use within the classroom for read alouds and things like that. Um, I also had other teachers that gave me books on China, and I just made sure that I had a really, really, really good supply of books so that my kids could put those books within their hands. I searched the internet and I also found images of different things that I wanted to use on my China study. I wanted it to feel very real for my kids. I wanted them to feel like they were immersed within China, even though we were inside our classroom. And so I wanted it to be really exciting for them. We started our study with everyone having a booklet that they compiled information of, and they added to the booklet. It was basically a hard poly type folder, and they just kept up with that throughout the 9 weeks, and they kept all of our work inside that folder. We had a special picture on it that I had printed out in color, and of course they thought that that was cool that they had a special picture on that folder. After I got the kids excited about China and we pretended that we were going on this trip and we had little passports and things that made us more excited, we began our KWL. And with our KWL, we were focusing in on what do we already know about China, what do we wonder about China, and at the end of our study, what did we learn about China? Now, this was really something that helped me in planning as we moved on in our China unit. I knew that there would be tweaks and things that I would need to do. And so I just began with asking the class, okay, what do you know about China? Of course, lots of hands went up. I heard all different kinds of things. And really, as you can see here, this is my most recent within my classroom today of what they know about China. And they actually knew a lot more than what I thought that they would know. There were some things that were quite interesting to me that as a second grader, they're thinking about like money. They one said, $1 is like $100. So they've obviously heard some things and have a little bit of prior knowledge. On the wonder, I felt that this was important so that I could know some of the things that they wanted to know because I wanted them to really have ownership with what we're learning. I want my class today to have ownership of what we're going to be learning. So it was important to me that I knew some of the things that they wanted to learn. And these things here under the W, these are things that I'll be implementing in the month of January and February in my classroom so that my kids can learn some of these things also. I will not be able to implement all of the things that they wonder, but I will be able to implement some of the things that they wonder. On the L, that's something that we will fill in when we are finished with our China study. On the KWL, each of my students will also have their own KWL that they will have in their folder. And I feel it's important that at the end on the L that they actually write down some of the things that they learned because each child, I think, is going to feel importance of different things. So I want them to be able to write some of their own things down. I will give you a little hint on the KWL. Something that I really try to incorporate is I try to give my students talking buddies. And so basically that's turn and talk. So when we do the K, of course, every single student wants to be able to give me something that they know about China, but time limits sometimes makes that where we can't do it. So at the end, I will say, okay, you can turn and talk to your talking buddy and tell them something that you know about China. This really helps them get out those words that they want to use and they feel like they're implementing something and giving me some information even though I'm not having to listen to each individual student. So I also do that on the W, and then on the L, when we do that, I will also do that. Here again, I'm just again saying that it's really important to involve your students in the planning process. Find out what they want to know, what they want to learn about China. You'll see here, this is a picture of my classroom after it was transformed into China and the things that we felt were important and the things that we wanted others to see and the things that we felt like we could teach others. These things that you see here, a lot of these are things that my students came up with that they wanted to learn. They wanted to learn about dragon heads. They wanted to be able to make dragon heads. And so I feel like it's really important that you know that a lot of what you see today are things that my kids felt like were important and wanted to implement within our study. And they take so much ownership and get so excited, and this just really helps them get even more excited. I think it's really important as you're trying to make these abstract ideas concrete. I feel like it's really important that you have a really big book list of books that you can go to and your students can go to. These are just a few books that I use throughout my China study. I really try to implement fiction and nonfiction books, books that are on a higher reading level and on a lower reading level of my students. I don't want them to think that they can't pick up a book just because it's too hard or too easy to read. I want them to just have the books in their hands. So, something else I try to do is I really try to implement a chapter book. As second graders, most of my second graders are scared of reading chapter books, so I really try to model that within my classroom. And once they've seen me reading the chapter book and they can feel themselves getting excited about listening to that chapter book, then I notice that they have more encouragement to actually check a chapter book out of the library and attempt reading that. One of the things that we did with our China unit is we researched the country's holidays. And you'll see here just an image of the Chinese New Year. My students really got into this part of the study. We incorporated the Chinese zodiac and we found out what animal we were as well as our family members. Students were made responsible during station time to find a directed drawing of the animal that they were and learn how to draw it. And they put that on display with their Chinese zodiac. We actually made little zodiac wheels, and they were able to use that on the night that we had our big celebration, and they were able to have other people come up to them, and they were able to help them find out what their zodiac was. They really felt like little geniuses getting to do this, and they really had fun with it. I knew that I wanted to incorporate hands-on projects within my China study. For me, it's something fun. It's something that I feel like the kids get excited about. I know sometimes you might have a class, though, where a hands-on project might not be possible outside of the classroom. If that's the case, then there are things that you can do within the classroom that are hands-on. You can ask for supplies to be donated. You can ask other teachers for things to let you borrow. I know at my school, a lot of times teachers will just send out emails and say, hey, we're about to do this. Does anybody have these things that we might be able to use within the classroom? We made a lot of hands-on projects with our China study, but our two biggest had to do with dragons. And so you see this sweet little girl holding her dragon head. This is something that she did do as a family project with her family. She had about 4 weeks to get it together at home, and then she had a date that she had to bring it to school. The fun part about the dragon heads is that we were able to use them on our night where we celebrated and showcased the things that we had learned about China. And so every child had something on display that they felt really, really excited about. Here you'll see some other research that we did. We knew that we were going to research the language of China. And I had the privilege of having a third grade student that knew Mandarin, and she was able to come into my classroom and teach us some very simple Mandarin words. My students, of course, loved this. They actually listened to her very intently, and she took the job very seriously. We also found a really cool website where we were able to put in our English names, and it transposed it into Mandarin, and you can kind of see that on the image at the top. You see the little girl's name Tara, and you can see her name in Mandarin. So the kids absolutely loved this. They thought that was the coolest thing to be able to see their name in another language. Here on this wall, you also see just some facts that we had found out about something called the Nine Dragon Wall. And it was something that I actually knew nothing about before researching China, something that I learned while I was researching with my students. And it's something that once we learned about it, we really kind of took it to a next level and did some other things with it. So it was really exciting getting to learn something alongside with my students and be able to tell them, hey, Miss Atkins did not know this either. You know, this is something that I learned as I'm researching with you different things about China. We also researched landmarks within our study of China. And this was something that really, really, really took something that I think the kids might not ever get to see, but maybe they've heard of. And it really kind of took it to a next level for them. They really were very interested in the Great Wall of China. And so we spent a lot of time actually researching the Great Wall of China, finding different images, writing about the Great Wall of China, trying to make a Great Wall of China within our classroom so that others could see it. We really got into the facts about the Great Wall of China. They were able to see erosion through the Great Wall of China and pictures that we were able to look at and just kind of see what happens over time to certain landmarks. We were able to go back into history and see things with the Great Wall of China and why it was even built and what it was intended for. And, you know, they were really mesmerized by the fact that you can actually go see the Great Wall of China today and just seeing the size of it and then seeing the destruction of it and things that have happened to it over the years. So this was something that was really, really interesting to my classroom and something that I will implement this year with my class on the study of China because I feel like it's something that really makes it really concrete with them when they're able to really study it. You'll see here that we also implemented animal research. And with this, we actually studied several different animals in China. I kind of let the kids have some free time on the computers and they were able to just Google animals in China and we just kind of made some different lists of those animals. Once we had some list of animals, I let them spend some time finding out some facts on the animals. And then we had to narrow it down. So within my classroom, we narrowed it down to just 5 animals that we were going to become experts on. And so one of the animals that my class chose was the white tiger. Another was the red panda. And through this, we were able to find out their habitats, find out, you know, how many of those animals there are today, find out where those animals live, and actually watch some footage on some of those animals. And then I made my kids responsible for working within a group to do all that research. They also had to work within the group to display their visual and the research that they were going to put around it. I did have some, you know, some things that I had to do to intervene. You know, sometimes there were, of course, some kids that didn't want to work within the group. We had to work some things out and talk some things out to be able to work together. But all in all, every single child had a beautiful display and they felt a lot of pride in it because they had done the work themselves. I really loved watching them grow into this and just grow into working together because second graders are not always great at working together. A lot of them want things their own way, and they're having to really show patience with one another in order to be able to listen to someone else's ideas. So there were a lot of great talking points that came along with this. Something else that was really great for us with the animal research is that I was able to implement speaking and listening skills. I was able to work with my class on speaking in front of an audience because we also presented our animals as groups to the class. And then also 2 people from each group presented the animals on our showcase night. So I really got to work with them and just show them how to speak in front of an audience. So that was a really great thing for my class. We also worked on writing skills, so I was able to take grades on that and use that for report cards. I knew which kids needed extra work on certain things just by watching them within the groups. Also, I was able to teach research skills with doing this because many of my students had never researched anything. They had Googled things and looked at things, but they didn't really know how to go deep into the research and find out certain things. So this was one of those projects that I felt like really encompassed everything that a second grader needed, and it was great for my class. At the end of our showcase, we planned a celebration. And so you can see some of my little cuties here with all their smiles. This was after all of our hard work. So this was after about 9 weeks. Um, at that time, I got with some of my parents and we were able to find a Chinese restaurant that was close to our school that was willing to donate part of our food. They didn't donate all of it, but they were able to donate some of it. They also donated about 500 fortune cookies for our big celebration night where we had parents come in and other families come in, and my kids actually showcased China to them. So that was really fun and that was exciting. The neat thing about this celebration is that there were many kids within my classroom that had never eaten Chinese food, mainly because of the fact they were picky eaters and they just did not want to try it. And so, with their friends being around, they were much more apt to try the Chinese food. And they actually found out that they liked Chinese food. On this day, I think I only had 3 kids that did not like the food. The rest all enjoyed it. We also ended our celebration with watching the movie Milan, and with that, we were able to compare and contrast Chinese facts and things that we had learned from our own study. And they did some comparing and contrasting. So that was a lot of fun for us. Here is where we had our showcase, and you'll see that my kids are the ones that are actually taking the center stage here. They are the ones that the parents and families listened to and got information from. This is something that we had to practice. I was not able to just stick my kids in a spot and say, hey, you're going to talk about the Great Wall of China, or you're going to talk about dragon heads, or you're going to talk about tangrams. This is something that we had to really, really practice. And so this is something that the week before we practiced on a daily basis for about a week. And they had something that they had to study, and they had something that they had to write up, and they had to memorize that, or at least pretty closely be able to speak all of that and be able to tell others. They also had to be able to answer questions on the spot. So there were different things that we practiced with this. On the day of our showcase, it was actually, we did a day showcase and we did a night showcase. It was really awesome because I was able to see my students tell everything that we had learned, and they did not need my help at all. I really was just a person that was walking around within the classroom and in the hallway, and I was able to let them take complete control. The smiles and the excitement that they showed made every single bit of the hard work worth it. I did this for 3 years within my classroom. I've taken a break from it from the last 2 years, but as I said again, this is something that I will be doing again this year. And just in the beginning stages of it, my kids are really, really excited. I would tell you to just have fun. If you want to plan a unit or a study within your classroom where you're taking an abstract idea and making it concrete, have fun. Involve your kids. Teach something that you're passionate about. Don't teach something that you really aren't going to get excited about. It needs to be something that you're going to be passionate about, something that you're going to feel like that you want to take it to the next level and really try new things with. That will help you. With this China unit, I really felt like I was able to incorporate so much of my standards, so many of my standards, so many of my social studies standards, so many of my speaking and listening standards, my writing standards, my reading standards, even my math standards. So it was something that I felt like really incorporated everything that a second grader needed to know. Um, I feel like that this is something that my students will remember forever. And so I would encourage you to find something you're passionate about, take it, plan it out, use it as a unit of study, maybe even incorporate an ABC book with it. You know, there's a lot of ABC books that you can go to the library and look at and use that as an idea of what you might want to study. Um, there's there was a book that I showed here in the clip that is called D is for Dragon, and it has so many facts about China within it. So just do a search on some ABC books for elementary students, and that will kind of really pique your interest in finding some things that you could maybe study. Use art history. That was something that we also incorporated, and something that you don't always get to use within your classroom. So that is the end of my presentation. I hope that this will encourage you to find something that you feel like is abstract and make it concrete and just have fun with it within your elementary classroom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tracy. What an amazing study. Though you were truly immersing them in all of the culture and learning. I loved seeing that. And I especially loved, as a media specialist, the fact that you included a lot of literature above and below, and specifically speaking of allowing students to choose a book no matter what the level is and give it a shot. Amazing job. Thank you so much again, Tabitha, for being with us tonight. I think it's amazing that as a counselor you attended this. What a
Yes, thank you.
wonderful presentation to attend as a counselor. I think those are awesome. So if there are any questions or anything at the end, feel free to go ahead and type it into the chat box. There will also be a quick survey. If you'll fill it out once we close this session, it should pop up on your screen. So thank you again, Tracy, tonight. I know it was a rough night tonight, but what a great presentation. I really enjoyed this. You got my brain ticking on some ideas. So again, I'm going to go ahead and close this session, but thanks again for everyone for attending tonight.
Thank you very much.